Welcome to the Child Care Scholarship new application tutorial. On behalf of the Maryland State Department of Education, we are so excited that you are applying for your child's first scholarship. You are watching this video on how to complete the Child Care Scholarship application, because you know how important it is to select the best early care and educational environment for your child. The goal today is to give you the tools necessary to successfully complete your application for processing. This video is going to focus on exactly what is needed from you, and why that information is needed. The 20-minute time investment you make today could save you hours, or even days, when submitting your application. I will be your coach during this tutorial and will give you the necessary information to be able to successfully complete your application process. We will begin with Section 1 of the application. Section 1 is the general information for the type of application that is being completed. We have one application currently, for both new Child Care Scholarship applicants and those who already have a Child Care Scholarship. If you are a new applicant, you click New, and if you have an existing scholarship you will click Redetermination. Select the type of child care provider you will be using. Formal care would include child care centers. These facilities are licensed by the state to provide care. Informal relative care includes a caretaker who is related by blood, marriage, or adoption. Someone who is a sibling who is 18 or older, aunt or uncle, grandparent or great-grandparent. Informal non-relative care would be a provider who will provide care in the child's home. Non-relatives include great-uncles, great-aunts, cousins, all other relations, friends, and neighbors. Section 2 is the applicant information. The first part of the application contains applicant information fields. The following fields must be completed. The applicant's first and last name must be entered on the application. The Social Security number is optional. Enter in the applicant's date of birth in the first field under Name. In the next field, you will select the gender of the applicant, either male or female. In the field following that, you will need to enter the marital status of the applicant. Keep in mind that if the applicant selects married, then the spouse must be added to the application. This will mean that we will require proof of identity and proof of activity for the spouse. If the applicant selects divorced or separated, then child support compliance documentation must be submitted with the application. The next field is the race of the applicant, and whether the applicant is Hispanic or Latino. Then the application asks for the primary language spoken in the home. Please remember to fill in this section of the application so that we may assist you if a language other than English is spoken in the home. The next field asks for the citizenship status of the applicant. For this program, the child or children needing care must have U.S. citizenship, but the parents do not have the same requirement. Complete the citizenship section by selecting Yes or No. Next, you will need to complete the field for alien status. Please select from the options below labeled choices for alien status. After that, you will need to select the current military status of the applicant. Enter your home address in the space provided. If you have an apartment number, be sure to include it when entering your address. If the mailing address differs from the home address, complete the mailing address section as well. For example, if you have a P.O. box, you will need to enter that in the space for the mailing address. Enter the phone number for the applicant. Be sure to select a phone number that is able to receive text messages, as we will be using a text feature in the future. Add your email address in this section. We will eventually be transitioning to a paperless system, so we will need email addresses for all applicants. After completing the applicant contact information, the next section is a series of questions pertaining to the circumstances of the applicant. For each of these questions, select Yes or No. Please do not skip this section. Do you pay child support to children outside of the home? This question is asking if the applicant is currently responsible for paying child support for a child that is not living with them. Are you a single parent? Remember, if you select yes for single parent, you will need to provide compliance documentation for child support. Are you a minor parent, under the age of 18? If you answered yes to this question, then the custodial parent or adult's information must also be submitted along with the minor parents. This will include proof of identity and proof of activity. Do you receive SNAP benefits, also known as food stamps? If you are currently receiving these benefits, select yes. Select yes. The final question in this section refers to any financial assistance the applicant might be receiving for housing. Do you receive any type of housing subsidy? Please remember to answer these questions accurately, as it is necessary for determining eligibility for the program. We will now move on to Section 3. Section 3 is the need for care information. This section identifies the family's need for care circumstances, to include temporary cash assistance, household size, income, activity information, and supplemental security income. Do you receive temporary cash assistance? This is also known as TANF, which stands for Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. This program provides financial assistance to families while preparing them for independence through work. If yes, put the start date. We need to know this information in order to properly process the application. There are possibly going to be other benefits that you qualify for if you are currently receiving temporary cash assistance. Make sure you answer these questions accurately. How many people are in your household? This includes relatives living in the house that you are related to biologically, by court, or marriage. For example, if you are a single parent and have 2 children, your household count is 3. If it is a 2-parent household with 2 children, the household count is 4. All of these questions are important and needed in order for us to process your application. Enter your gross annual income in the next field. This would be your annual wages before any taxes or deductions are taken out. Then you will be asked to select your activity. Approved activities include a job search or work, community service, public school, or college. You must select all of the activities that you are currently participating in. Are you currently working? Are you currently providing community service? Are you attending public school? Are you attending college? Do you want assistance for related children who are not your biological children? How many related children are in your custody? Related children in your custody means you are taking care of children that are not your biological children by blood, birth, or marriage. Is anyone in the household receiving supplemental Social Security income? This is important, especially if it's the adult, because there is an income scale. Finally, are you responsible for any children with a disability? Sometimes accommodations will need to be made for disabled children in care. If you have a child that will need an accommodation, you will need to provide documentation to support your claim. The next field asks if the applicant is currently homeless. The definition of homelessness for this program is someone who lacks a permanent, fixed address. It could also mean someone who is staying in someone else's home because they do not have a permanent shelter of their own. If the applicant is homeless, that circumstance is a priority as we want to make sure the child receives care immediately. The final question for this section asks if the applicant has assets of $1 million. An example of this occurring would be if a family member gifted a home that was paid for to an applicant. Depending on the value of the home and land, the value could meet or exceed $1 million. This would also include an applicant who won the lottery or received an endowment. Section 4 of the application is the child information. Answer these questions in reference to all the children that are in your household count. Each child will need to be entered separately so that we may establish the individual need for care. If you have more than one child, just repeat the completion of each section for each child. Enter the child's name, gender, birth date, race, and alien status. Social Security numbers are optional. Does the child receive supplemental security income? Answer yes or no here. What is the child's relationship to you? For example, is this your biological child, grandchild, adopted child, etc.? Does the child have a disability? Depending on the disability, there may need to be accommodations made for the child in terms of care. We will need to have information about the disability to assess the level of care needed. Does the child receive benefits from Social Security? Have you applied for child support for this child? If you answer no, that means that there is not an absent parent and that the other parent of the child is within the household count. Do you receive child support for this child? If you answer no, that means that the other parent is within your household count. If there is an absent parent and you select no, that means that either you are not going to qualify or you are going to provide the documentation that proves that you've already taken care of this requirement. Is the child in Head Start? Head Start is a program that is paid for by the federal government. If you qualify for Head Start, please be encouraged to utilize Head Start and you can still get a scholarship. On the application, there are multiple spaces to add child information. Once you complete the first child information section, if you have more than one child you will complete the same fields for each additional child. In this section of the application, you will need to provide the information for all children in the household count. Please remember, the children that are entered in this section should only be children who are in need of care. Do not enter information here for any children in the household who are not in need of care. Section 5 includes information on other members of the household count. That applies to the other adult or parent that is within the household count, as well as other children in the household who do not require care. This is also where you would enter information for any household members who are under the age of 22 and who are considered dependent for tax purposes. Enter the information for the applicant's spouse or any other responsible parties that reside within the household. Then enter all other household members. You will need to complete all mandatory fields just as you did previously for the applicant information. The applicant's relationship to you, that refers to the person that is completing the document. Does the household member have an activity that makes them unavailable to care for the child? In other words, are they working? Are they in school? Are they in a training program? Because, if they are in one of these activities, this will establish the need for care for the child. You will indicate yes if they are in one of the above approved activities. If the person is within the home, you would indicate no. Does a household member have earned or unearned income? Remember, any type of income, whether you work to get it or the income comes in and you don't have to work for it, is considered income. Is there a circumstance that makes the household member unable to care for the child? What this would mean is that there is someone in the household who is an adult and is related to the child by blood, or marriage, or adoption. They do not have an activity, and they also have documentation from a licensed psychiatrist or physician that states that this person is unable to provide care for the child. If you have that documentation, then your response would be yes. If there are any other household members that are in the household count? For example, if there is a child that is over 18 but attends college and is considered dependent for tax purposes, that would be indicated here. Complete this section for each household member. Once all household members have been added, we can move on to the next section. Section 6 is where you would enter the activity information for the adult household members listed in Section 2 or Section 5 of the application. As a reminder, Section 2 of the application refers to the applicant. Section 5 of the application refers to other household members. If you are a minor parent, please refer to the list below as a reference for who would be considered a household member. This varies a bit from who is considered a household member for parents over the age of 18. Step 1 is to enter the name of the applicant or household member. Remember, the applicant and any adult household members must participate in an approved activity. This is one of the main eligibility points that establishes a need for care. If there is a circumstance that prevents this, documentation must be provided to support that claim. Next, enter the activity type. There is a list of options to choose from in the gray box shown here to include employment, job search, education, training, community service, or FIA personal responsibility plan. Next, enter the name of the organization for your approved activity, followed by the organization phone number and address. Keep in mind, if there is more than one activity for an applicant or adult household member, they must each be entered separately. The work schedule is needed to determine how many hours of care are needed for the children. If the adult has a set work schedule, they will need to enter both the hours worked per week and the actual schedule worked each week. If the schedule varies from week to week, then simply enter the number of hours worked per week. Please remember that documentation for work schedules and hours worked is a requirement. Enter daily commute time from provider to activity location. Do not skip this as it is important information needed to establish hours of care. Enter activity information outlined here for all adult household members. Repeat this process until all approved activities have been entered for the applicant and applicable adult household members. We will now move on to Section 7, which includes the child care schedule entry. This is where the applicant will enter the childcare schedule for each child. If you do not provide a childcare schedule, you are not going to get the highest level scholarship that your family may be eligible for, which is the ultimate goal. That is why this section is so important. There is only enough room on this application for 3 children. If you have more than 3 children in care, you are going to copy this page and provide the schedule for the remaining children. If your child has a regular set schedule, for example, childcare is needed every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. and this includes commute time, that is what will need to be entered. The important thing is to enter schedules correctly for when care is needed. If there are multiple children with differing child care schedules for school-aged and non-school-aged children, enter each schedule individually for each child. Section 8 of the application pertains to income information. Income information is used to determine eligibility for scholarship benefits, so it is imperative that all income information be correct. First, enter the name of the household member in the space provided. The following field will be used to select and enter the type of income. The options are listed in the gray box shown here. Refer to the website listed here if the household member does not have all required pay stubs and needs an employment verification statement. That website is money4childcare.com. Also listed here is helpful information for other categories such as self-employment, commission pay, or supplemental security income. This next part is so important. When you enter your income, you must make sure to enter the correct information. How often does the person get paid? If it is weekly, enter the gross amount that is received each week. Remember, the gross amount is the amount before any deductions or taxes are taken out. All different types of income received must be entered separately. If the income is from child support, the absent parent's name must be entered. We are almost finished, just one page left to review. This is a very important page as well. It is the last page that contains the disclosures, consent, and signature and date section. At the top of the page, information is provided that outlines policy requirements for giving false information or failing to disclose any applicable circumstance changes. It also goes over the definition and penalties for committing fraud. Following that, is the consent for CCS Central to review your records for the purposes of verifying documentation and determining eligibility. Finally, The last section is for the signature and date of the applicant and other applicable adult household members. In the case of a minor parent applying, their custodial parent must also sign and date the application. Any applications received that are not signed and dated will be returned. Please review this page for helpful tips for streamlining the application process. Sending in all required documents with your application can speed up the process and get your eligibility determination much faster. Thank you for completing this tutorial. On behalf of the Maryland State Department of Education, it was an honor going through the application completion process with you. We are excited that you are applying for your child's first scholarship. Our hope is that the information provided here will be useful to you, as you resubmit and complete your application each year. Thank you. Have a terrific day.